Welcome to JetBlue Park. I'm Jason Mastronato. This is Scott Lauber. We trying to figure out who's going to be the closer of the Boston Red Sox on opening day, and we're still not quite sure. Koji Uehara has the left hamstring strain, and he said today that it's similar to a hamstring strain that he dealt with in Baltimore back in 2010 when he was out for about 2 months, didn't pitch in his first game until May 9th. And he says he's not sure if he'll be ready for opening day. Now, I talked to Edward Mujica, Scott, who should be the backup closer if Uehara has to miss time. He's working on a cutter this spring, really developing his changeup, which was his best pitch when he was a great closer for the St. Louis Cardinals in 2013. Do you think Uehara will be ready? And if not, do you think Mujica can handle the job?
I think he will be, but, of course, there's plenty of time for another setback. There's plenty of time for another piece of bad news for the Red Sox here, which means Mujica becomes a very important part of this team. And, it's interesting because it reminds me of last April at Yankee Stadium when Koji had a little bit of a health scare, and we all thought Mujica was going to be a very important part of this team. Koji is turning 40 in a few weeks, and the list of 40-year-old closers who've had 25 or more saves in a season is very small. I think it's 5 guys. So, in all likelihood, either Mujica or Ogando or Tazawa, one of these guys is going to have to be the closer for a portion of the season. If it happens early on, then perhaps they can get more out of Koji later in the year. Maybe it's one of those blessing in disguises kind of things. But one way or another, a guy like Edward Mujica, I think, is going to be a really important part of this bullpen pitching in the 9th inning for a stretch of season at some point.
Yeah, and he had a 3.91 ERA last year, his first year with the Red Sox. But remember, he started the season with neck and shoulder issues, wasn't really healthy until the middle of the year, and had a real nice final 2 or 3 months where he looked like what the Red Sox paid him to be, which was a back-end rotation guy, back-end reliever. So I think he could handle that job pretty well. Now, we also saw Rusney Castillo today. He's finally back in some games after a couple weeks. Hasn't played since March 3rd with a left oblique strain. Now, we know the oblique is a funky injury. It can really nag on you. Is this something that you think is going to hinder his ability to make the team?
Well, I went out to the back practice fields to watch him get his 2 at-bats. And I am no eagle-eyed baseball scout, but he looked okay to me. He said afterwards that he felt fine. It is one of these injuries that does tend to linger, but the Red Sox believe that they gave him enough time to hopefully knock it out so that by the time he gets back on the field now, that it isn't an issue any longer. He only saw 6 pitches. He did take some big swings, as he's prone to do. He did run down to first base, grounded out both times, did play center field, and had a couple of chances out there to pick up ground balls and throw them in. And again, no discomfort reported after that. So that's a good sign for him, and he'll do that again tomorrow. And then they're hopeful to get him into big league spring training games shortly thereafter.
And in his absence, it looks like Mookie Betts is going to be the center fielder. Shane Victorino, the right fielder, if fully healthy. Now, he's 1 for 13 this spring, but probably don't make too much of that because he's hitting left-handed for the first time in a while. The big question is he healthy? Does he look healthy to you?
Sure, and he says he is, and so we'll take him at his word there. Again, you touched on the important part of this, and that's that he's hitting left-handed again for the first time in quite a while. And if you go back to spring training 2013, he had a really bad spring training that year numbers-wise. He went off to the World Baseball Classic and looked totally lost. And I remember talking to scouts who said, coming off of a bad 2012 season, I wonder if Shane Victorino's done. And all he did was go out and had a really good year in 2013 and was arguably the best player on a World Series championship team. So I don't put any stock whatsoever in the way he's swinging the bat because it didn't look good 2 years ago and it turned out just fine. So as long as he is healthy, I think that he'll be the opening day center right fielder. Mookie Betts, as you mentioned, kind of putting some distance between himself and everybody else in center field. And that leaves Rusney Castillo. What do they wind up doing with him? If he is healthy and does have enough time to get himself ready for the season, they could always start him in AAA, which is, I think, what they'll likely do at this point. But they'll have some decisions to make in that outfield as spring training nears its end in a couple of weeks.
And they got to see, of course, who's going to be healthy when the season starts. A lot of guys dealing with nagging things now. They're going to give a bunch of guys days off tomorrow. But the Red Sox are back at it against the Toronto Blue Jays, so we'll have more from Dunedin. For now, that's it. For Chris Evans, the videographer, Scott, I'm Jason. Thanks for watching.